Thank you for joining me on Success today. I am here with Richard Reid. Richard, I mean, you have had such a storied career as a realtor and done so many different things. Tell me what your practice is doing right now that's so unique.
Well, I think one of the things that we do that's really unique and is the way that we approach buyers and sellers in the market. Most people, when they go to think about buying or selling a home, they think about what's most tangible to them. So like a buyer's going to go to a website and start looking at properties, and a seller's just going to be thinking about how much can I get for my home.
Right.
And what we do is we really sit down and we start with what are their real goals? What are their financial goals? How does it fit into their financial portfolio? And what are their objectives around a home in terms of, what's the community going to live like? What's the lifestyle going to be like? And how does all of that fit together to really create the lifestyle and the whole picture that they're looking for?
Sure.
So we really take a step back and kind of create some objectivity around the process. And then because we do so many transactions, so many more than typical realtors, we have a very formal process. We have great relationships with vendors, and we have an established team that has expertise within the process. So there are over 100 things that we do during a process, and we're able really, as we work with people, to make sure that we're managing each of those things to deliver the best success for them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, I mean, I know as someone who has bought and sold many homes, it's a very nerve-wracking process. So it's nice to know that the people you're working with kind of have a little bit of something that's a fail-safe.
Sure, and it's really important to know that as you go to buy and sell a home, it's a very emotional process, right? Because it's your personal home, and so there's a real emotional connection that happens. And when you do that, it doesn't matter what your background is. I've worked with a lot of attorneys, I've worked with accountants, people that deal with high volume, high end legal transactions on a regular basis.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter which part of that they fit into. At some point it becomes emotional, and you really need somebody who can be objective and and who can really kind of walk you, take a step back and walk you through the process so that you make sure that what you originally set out as your goal is what you're still marching towards as you go through the process.
Sure, and I mean, I know I mentioned this to you before the break, but a lot of times I'll have people who are buying a home or looking for a home, and their thing is, well, I can go on Redfin and Zillow. I don't need to have a realtor. But at the end of the day, the seller is the person who's actually compensating the realtor for the transaction. So why would a buyer want to have a realtor represent them?
Well, I think there's a number of different reasons that it's going to be important. The first is, we're in a time crunch society, right? So everybody thinks they don't have time for anything, and they're running in 1,200 different directions. And yes, there are a lot of tools, and there's an app for pretty much everything around real estate. So as a consumer, you can go on a variety of different sites or on your phone, and you can see homes.
Yeah.
But the amount of time it might take you to look for a home, like so, say in my market in Metro Atlanta, there's like 35,000 homes on the market right now.
Sure.
The amount of, the ability that you have to intelligently refine that process is very limited relative to what I can do. So I can take that 35,000 homes, and we can sit down and profile what you're looking for. And I'm not going to probably show you more than about 15 homes on a screen that make sense for you.
Right.
Where it might take you 4 or 5 hours as a buyer, going online to try to get some approximation of that, and you might still have to look through more than 100 homes.
Right.
So that's one thing that's going to be important during the process. The other thing is that very few people understand really all of the financial components, the different products that are available, and have the lender relationships necessary to be able to ensure that you're navigating through that process in a way that's going to deliver the best product for you. So a lot of people think they can't get financed. They have misconceptions about how much money they've got to put down in order to make a transaction work. And they don't understand all the components either of the mortgage or of the amount of money that has to come to the closing table in order to make that work.
Sure.
And those are things that we can very simply kind of break down and provide some framework around, and then partner people with lenders that we've done millions of dollars worth of business with, and they're going to know they're getting taken care of, by somebody that's got their best interest at heart.
Right, and I would imagine too, I mean, knowing that you have someone who's going to cross the T's and dot the I's, because it's a very complicated process to buy or sell a home. So having someone who's been there and done that is, I think, a really big deal.
Absolutely, and there's so much actually that goes on during the process from the time that you've actually decided on the house and written a contract to the closing, that I've actually hired a full-time person to do nothing but that. So her entire job is to make sure that everybody gets the right copy of the contract, that the title or law firm gets involved in as doing the right title search process, that the mortgage person is involved, and we actually contact them typically twice a week to make sure that the updates are more frequent because there are so many things that go wrong and they get missed during that process. And if you catch them ahead of time, it's really simple to deal with. But if you miss it, it can delay a closing for a very long time. So there's lots of different things that can happen in that process. And the other thing that happens is you never know what's going to come up during like an inspection,
right?
Or
a lot of surprises.
Or an appraisal process. So we have over 85 vendors that we work with in order to make sure that we can address problems proactively and make sure that we're ahead of the curve, and we've got factual, solid information to make decisions as we go through a process.
I would imagine that kind of peace of mind is what's made you so successful as well in that way.
It served me really well, and it's actually really kind of built my referral market very well as well, because one of the things that we do is we offer that service to people for life. Right. So if you buy a home from me today, and 3 years from now you need a plumber or a painter or a foundation repair person or whatever the case is, we're still there to service you. And I actually get calls typically about once a year from clients who are looking for a vendor or some kind of service around that process. So we really do provide that service for life.
So it's a lifelong consultation, basically.
Exactly.
Not just one and done.
Yeah, because you can't, it's such a huge investment, and you want to make sure that people are, not only that they're enjoying it and that they're able to comfortably deal with it, but you want to make sure that they're making smart decisions, because a wrong decision around, some of those things can cost you, thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars in the wrong direction.
Sure.
And we also want to make sure that people are in the right place when they go to sell their home. So, having proper maintenance and proper advice during the life of the ownership puts people in a position to then sell the home properly and make sure that they're maximizing their profit as they go forward.
That's all. And plus, this is everyone's, generally speaking, it's most people's biggest financial transaction they're ever going to make in their life. So I think to have someone like you who's got a team dedicated to making them feel comfortable with this transaction is enormous. What would you think if you could think of one client story or one moment in your real estate history that kind of defines your practice and defines your business? What would it be?
I think I had a client recently who works for the Emory University healthcare system, and I've actually done 2 transactions for them in the last 14 or 15 months. And the first transaction was setting their daughters up in a condo because they're both in graduate school in Atlanta, and they wanted a home that would work for them, but that also would work for the parents as they look towards retirement. And then recently the parents moved from Nashville to Atlanta, and we were able to work with them to find a new home for them. In their new job, they're in a position where they've got to entertain and be able to host parties, as well as have it live well for them, comfortably for them.
Sure.
And they've got one of them works from home, one doesn't. So, one of the things that I really like doing in the process is I like sitting down and listening to customers and being able to hear the different nuances of what they're looking at around a home or around a community, and being able to put together those to find just that special place for them.
Right.
It's not really just about the house, it's about the neighborhood, it's about the community, it's about the lifestyle, it's about how all of that comes together. And understanding that along with how it fits in their financial timeline, and where they're planning to go once they're out of that, making sure they've got a good exit strategy so that we can really pull together all of the pieces for them to make it perform both while they're living in it and financially as they move on.
That's great, man. Well, continue success. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.